At this point, it really does feel like it's only a matter of time before this Epstein Files story blows straight into the West Wing, because it's not going away. Not in Congress, not in the courts, and not even on Fox News anymore.
He appears one time in the Epstein Files. By the Miami Herald's count, Trump is mentioned over 1,000 times in the latest tranche that just got out. And people are not going to forget that in 2002, for instance, Trump said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. I have never alleged, and I am not alleging now, that Donald Trump has done anything untoward with an underage woman. But if you want to be throwing around single emails from a random fundraising group to try to make Brooklyn Barack look bad and not acknowledge how many times Donald Trump is mentioned in these files, you're just going to look dumb. And I would encourage everyone to not look dumb.
It's been a rough week for the president. His behind-the-scenes effort to stall the Epstein vote collapsed, with the House and Senate both pushing forward on declassifying the files. According to Reuters, the House vote was overwhelmingly bipartisan. Even Representative Lauren Boebert, usually one of his most reliable allies, didn't budge, backing transparency despite pressure.
It sure looks like Congresswoman Lauren Boebert did a brave thing today.
Any reaction to Leader Thune seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was standing there with the Crown Prince. We couldn't call.
Are you frustrated in the majority leader? Are you upset with the majority leader?
And then came that moment on Fox. Jessica Tarlov reminded viewers how unpopular his handling of this issue has become. Polling from Reuters/Ipsos shows his approval sliding, especially on cost of living and on trust around the Epstein matter. When even Fox starts acknowledging that reality, you know something is shifting.
But this idea that the Epstein Files is going to be reframed as a Democratic hoax is never going to work. The American public is not cool with it. What does he have? Trump has a minus 39 approval on handling the Epstein Files, and only 45% of Republicans even approve at this point. The narrative about Hakeem Jeffries, everyone at this table knows how fundraising emails work. So that email was from someone named Lisa Rossi, who's from a random fundraising group called Dynamic SRG, asking if Epstein wants to go to a generic DCCC dinner that Obama and Jeffries were going to be at. There was never any meeting. There was never any donation. And he appears one time in the Epstein Files. By the Miami Herald's count, Trump is mentioned over 1,000 times.
It's other people mentioning him. It's not his fault when people want to get him.
I just read a quote.
But that was one quote, but other people are mentioning to stop him. They're like the other person who wanted. They were all trying to stop Trump.
Why did he want the files to not come out this badly?
Meanwhile, the tug of war on Capitol Hill has been intense. Speaker Mike Johnson was visibly shaken as he dodged reporters after the Senate passed a clean bill to release Epstein-related documents without the amendments he and the White House wanted. Critics across both parties said those amendments looked more like political protection than genuine victim safeguards.
Donald Trump's dictatorial power over Congress will not continue. Today, Donald Trump is the biggest loser in presidential history on legislation passed by both the House and the Senate that is a direct rebuke of the president. No president has ever suffered a personal rebuke on legislation anywhere close to the enormity of what Donald Trump suffered today. Mike Johnson spent the year doing Donald Trump's dirty work in the House of Representatives by blocking any chance for a vote on releasing the Epstein files. And then when the vote was forced upon him, Mike Johnson completely surrendered. And then Mike Johnson was doubly humiliated in his surrender today after he said this.
I called my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition.
He was guaranteed by Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune that the Senate would amend the bill passed by the House and include the kind of changes Mike Johnson insisted were necessary. It is going to have to add amendments or try to add amendments. And now I know someone is lying.
The new bill forces the release of the files despite earlier White House objections, with only limited redactions allowed. DOJ officials say they'll comply, but activists warn the administration still has room to slow walk or over-redact unless the public keeps paying attention.
Madam Attorney General, do you mean that you will provide all the files by 30 days?
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information. And again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward. And we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
And honestly, the more he snaps at reporters, complains about witch hunts, and tries to sway votes, the more it looks like he's fighting the release instead of welcoming transparency. This is the same administration calling itself the most transparent in history, yet repeatedly resisting oversight until Congress forces its hand. That disconnect is exactly why public trust is eroding.
I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party.
Survivors and advocacy groups have been clear. Release the full files legally allowed, protect identities, and stop hiding behind victim language to delay disclosure. Polls back them. A strong majority of Americans believe the government still isn't being fully honest about Epstein's network.
President Trump's approval rating falling to 38%. That is the lowest it's been in his second term. People are unhappy with Trump's handling of consumer prices and, yes, the Epstein Files. Kim Strassel joining us this morning. Does this mean Trump's affordability messaging isn't working yet?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Stuart. And this is a huge wake-up call for Republicans. And if you actually look at Trump's approval rating, it actually has been sliding for a while. And I think what happened here is voters had a lot of optimism that he really was going to turn around the economy. And they've given him, 9 months now, and they've been waiting. But suddenly they've been looking around, and things really haven't improved to the degree that they thought they would on cost of living. Yeah, I mean, gas prices down in some areas of the country. There are some glimmers of good news here and there, but overall, he's not performed, and that's what the polls are saying. He's not lived up to people's expectations. So Republicans, they got a lot of work to do in a short period of time before the midterms.
Only about a quarter of the country approves of his handling of cost of living issues, and even fewer fully believe the White House version of his Epstein relationship. That combination of economic frustration and distrust around transparency is politically dangerous.
This is the President of the United States standing beside his best friend, Jeffrey Epstein. As we all know, Mr. Epstein is one of the most notorious sexual predators in American history. For 8 weeks, the Republicans on this committee have chosen to protect these two men instead of providing justice to Mr. Epstein's victims. Now the administration is panicking. First, they campaigned on releasing the Epstein Files. Then AG Bondi and Associates did a photo op with the files. And she said, and I quote, "The Epstein list is on my desk." Then somehow the Epstein list didn't exist. Then the Epstein Files became a Democratic hoax. Now the president is supposedly supportive of releasing the files, even though he's currently ignoring a congressional subpoena to do so. Now the president is simply crashing out. And it's because he can't seem to explain his special decades-long relationship with one of the most prominent sexual predators in American history. It's already public that he's in the Epstein Files, but his administration is hiding the context of his involvement, if any, with Mr. Epstein's horrific crime.
And with new Marquette polling showing rising concern about abuse of power, the GOP has every reason to worry.
You know, this is a poll that came out yesterday, Marquette University Law School poll, and I don't think it picked up enough coverage that it should have, because these numbers should be truly frightening to Republicans. Why do I point it out? Why do I say that? Okay, Dems versus Republicans on the generic congressional ballot. If you look at all voters, this matches the average. You see Democrats up by 5 points. Okay, that's not a bad position, but it's not as strong as they were in the 2018 cycle at this point. But come over to this side of the screen. This is where it gets truly frightening for the GOP, because among those certain to vote, look at this. The Democratic advantage nearly doubles. We're talking about a 9-point advantage going from 5 to 9 points. And this matches with what we're seeing in other polls, which is huge Democratic enthusiasm, huge. And more than that, remember, elections are not just about persuasion. They're about turnout as well. And what this suggests is Democrats are far more likely to turn out at this point. A 9-point advantage going from 5 to 9. That is A+, 2 thumbs up. Great news for Democrats.
Because at the end of the day, voters are watching who stands for transparency and who doesn't.